If you're accused of murder, convicted of murder, jailed for murder, freed but then retried and found guilty again of murder, and then finally definitively exonerated 8 years after the nightmare first began, can you ever feel free? That has been the challenge for Amanda Knox, who was wrongfully convicted for the 2007 murder of British student Meredith Kercher in Italy. So how do you rebuild your life and bring up a family when many people still think you're a murderer? I'm Lucy Watson, and this is What You Need to Know. Welcome to the podcast. As ever, we are bringing you what you need to know in a matter of minutes, but I'd really urge you to watch my full interview with Amanda too. It's about 50 minutes long, and even if I do say so myself, it is fascinating. There is a direct link in the show notes for you. If you haven't got time, I won't be offended. What follows now are the best bits from what was an absorbing and revealing conversation. Amanda, you are no stranger to putting pen to paper, that's for sure. You know, you've wrote your first book in 2013, Waiting to be Heard. This one I have with me, which is your latest, which is called Free. Why write another one?
Free, my search for meaning, is what I feel is my story. It is the story of how I have survived that experience, how I navigated the prison environment and was able to find a sense of purpose even within those very punitive limitations, and how I discovered upon being released from prison that I did not get to go back to being an anonymous person, that I was forever branded the girl accused of murder. My very identity had become wrapped up and mixed together with the death of my friend.
You have been free, as in out of prison, for a long time now, but do
Right.
you feel free of the different kinds of shackles that all encompasses for you and your life?
What is freedom? What does it mean to be free is something that I've spent my entire adult life contemplating, having had my freedom stolen from me. And, when I was in prison, I really was able to eventually wrap my mind around the idea that I could live a purposeful life even within the limitations of prison, even if I was forced to live an unfair, desperate life like that, I could still live my best life. But I still had this idea in my mind that obviously my life would be better if I was outside of prison, and that I got to get, I fantasized about getting my life back, that life of being an anonymous college student. And then when I came home and I was pursued home by helicopters, and for months on end, I couldn't go to the grocery store without somebody just popping out of the bushes with a, camcorder in my face. Like, I realized that, and, years later, not just months later, but years later, again, the cameras popping out of the bushes to try to get pictures of me and my husband, or me as a pregnant person, like all of these things of like being a person in the public interest, in the public eye, whether I have asked to be or not, has made me feel very, very trapped.
I've got two little ones, a boy and a girl. Eureka and Echo, amazing names.
Thanks.
And now you are a mum, how are you going to explain to them both that a lot of people think mummy's a murderer?
I believe that to be the best parent that I can be, I need to be transparent, and I need to be age appropriately honest. So
They're a bit little at the moment, aren't they?
they are a bit little at the moment. So I'm not going to talk to them about the gruesome details of this experience, not just of what, happened to Meredith, but also what happened to me, the really, really bad things that happened to me in prison, or that have happened to me since, like as a consequence of everything that happened. But what I can say is that when mommy was young, mommy went to go study in a foreign country, and it was beautiful, and she made friends. And then out of the blue, someone hurt her friend really badly, and they thought mommy hurt her friend. And so they put mommy in jail. And then mommy had to prove that she was innocent, and she got out of prison. And she's gone on with her life. She met Papa. She had you. The end, basically, is the at this point. At this point, it's really simple because also 3-year-olds have the attention span that they have. But it's been really interesting seeing her process that, because to her, stories are games,
Mm.
and she'll now want to play Mommy Goes to Italy with me. And
Oh,
and so,
I don't really know what to
she'll,
say about that.
yeah, yeah. So she'll have me reenact, like, being behind prison bars, or she'll pretend to be mommy. Like, if we see a playground where they have, like, the bars, she'll, like, be like, "Oh, look, I'm mommy in prison." Like, this is, she is processing the way children process things, which is through play. And I
How do you
I
feel
I'm
when
ju
she does that?
I mean, I think the thing that immediately comes to mind is, is just astonishment, amazement at the beauty that children bring to our lives. Because in a way, it's almost like a kind of exposure therapy.
As I was, in the weeks that leading up to me chatting to you today, I told some of my pals that we were going to have a conversation and an interview, and several of them said to me, "Did she do it? Ask her if she did it." And I said to them, "She's been exonerated twice. The judicial system in Italy has definitively cleared her of murder. How do you live with that?"
To defend your friends for just a second, because I'm always in the habit of defending the people who accuse me. um,
Are you? Is that
I
what you
don't
do?
think that. I mean, I think I'm ultimately a lover and not a fighter, so I tend to try to be as conciliatory and accommodating of people as possible. And what I'm about to say will explain why I think your friends are not crazy to have asked you that question. And the reason is because the Italian justice system didn't really give a satisfying answer for what really happened to Meredith. And the reason for that is because they tried the person who actually committed this crime separately from me and my co-defendant, Raffaele. The way that the Supreme Court acquitted me and Raffaele was, I think, acknowledging that there was zero evidence that me and Raffaele had anything to do with it, but wanting to, there's a word in Italian called contentina, a little contentment. They wanted to give a little contentment to the prosecution by saying, well, Amanda and Raffaele didn't have anything to do with it, but maybe they were there when it happened. And when you say maybe Amanda was there, likely Amanda was there when it happened, it makes zero sense. Like what scenario are we imagining where I was present when this crime occurred? I'm there when my roommate is getting raped and murdered and I'm just sitting back watching, or I'm like, what is this scenario that they've imagined? So like there is this very terrible and unsatisfactory uh legal truth to the case that is entirely not based in truth, and leaves it open for people to attack me and say, you were there, you were involved, you know more than what you're saying, so you're guilty of something, we just don't know what. We like so we can't say that you're guilty. You've been acquitted based on a technicality. That's like the ongoing trauma of this case, is
Does
that
does
for
every
everyone.
day does every day feel like you're still on trial in some way? People in the streets, mums in the playground, thinking maybe, maybe not.
I'm fortunate that in my day-to-day life, the people who I encounter and who know me, who are like a part of my life, part of my community, they all know that I had nothing to do with it, and no one bats an eye. But that doesn't mean that I do not feel like every other wrongly convicted person ever, but especially because I was so publicly vilified and accused. I feel like I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving my innocence. And that is a burden that I carry. And I found that this case in particular is very sticky in people's minds, for better or for worse. And I say for worse because clearly that means that, again, it means that people are still to this day speculating and curious about, did she or didn't she? And the for better is that it means that this case touched a nerve I think, a sort of global nerve about what we think about women, what we think about justice, what we think about media, and I think people recognize that embedded deep within this tragedy that has many victims, there is a lot to be learned.
Amanda, at the heart of this story, your life, is Meredith. She was a young British woman raped and brutally murdered on her year abroad.
Yeah.
I know that you've reached out to her family. They don't want to engage with you.
Mm.
Why is that, do you think?
Well, I certainly do not want to put words into their mouth. That would be a great question to ask them. However, what I will say is that it is not uncommon in cases of wrongful conviction for family members of the first and primary victim to hang on to this sense of first of all assuming guilt of the exonerated person, thinking that they wouldn't have been accused in the first place if they weren't actually, in some way guilty of something. But I think the other thing that Meredith's family is grappling with is the fact that this case spiraled out of control very quickly. And discerning the truth about what happened to Meredith very, very quickly became secondary to the scandalous narrative that was unfolding about the case and the vilification of me. And I think one of their complaints that I 100% agree with is that when people think of this case, they don't remember Meredith's name. They remember mine. They don't even remember the murderer's name. They remember mine. And if this case had been investigated and prosecuted and written about publicly properly, no one would ever know who I was.
Amanda, does it bother you that they perhaps don't think you're innocent?
It 100% bothers me. It very much bothers me. And I think the thing that, again, I don't know because I don't know. Everyone's different. And also, people evolve with time. And I've literally never had access to Meredith's family ever. I've never met them. They don't know who I am, and they only know me through the worst context possible.
Do you think
But
about Meredith, Amanda?
oh my God, every day. She was just like me. She was 1 year older than me. She liked to read. She was studying journalism. Loved the Italian culture and the Italian language. We were both studying abroad and in Perugia in the same house. Like, we had so much in common. The thing that I wish that I still had in my life was the opportunity to grieve her, um, to really, like, to visit her grave and to grieve her and to share those moments with her family where she was she was a friend, and to share in that grief, because I think, just, even more than me, their lives also had a life-defining tragedy happen to them.
Well, what would you say now to them?
I want to grieve with you. And, you know, it's not fair what happened. It's not. And I understand why it feels like you never got justice for her, because you didn't. And I care about that.
Well, if you're new to What You Need to Know, do hit subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, or any podcast platform to get out our regular quick briefings and insightful interviews across a range of news topics. Until next time, thanks for joining me.